It's honestly surprising it took this long for Caleb Landry Jones to be cast as Dracula. Just look at him. He already has that pale, almost unnatural presence of someone who avoids sunlight like it's a threat. If you've seen him in Heaven Knows What, you know he can fully disappear into unsettling, offbeat characters. Back then, his acting choices were so strange they bordered on distracting. At times, he even sounded uncannily like Tommy Wiseau, to the point where you half expected a melodramatic outburst straight out of The Room. Here, though, he reins it in. He adopts an Eastern European accent, but doesn't push it too far. And for most of the film, he stays relatively controlled. The only time he really lets loose is when he kills the priest who failed to save his wife, Elizabeth, back in 1480. That moment triggers his transformation into a vampire, apparently via a mix of rage, blasphemy, and convenience. And from there, he embraces the bloodlust. When he's feeding, Jones finally taps into something wild, almost theatrical. There's even a montage where he seduces women across lavish European dance halls, draining them with a kind of gleeful excess that borders on camp. That kind of indulgence fits perfectly with director Luc Besson, who has always leaned towards spectacle over restraint. His boldness paid off decades ago with The Fifth Element, but he's been chasing that high ever since. Without the same level of budget, the cracks show. The film opens with a fiery medieval battle that looks noticeably digital, and later, Dracula's castle is populated by living gargoyles that feel less menacing and more like off-brand fantasy creatures. Still, Besson keeps swinging. He never lacks ambition, even when the execution falters. He frames the story as a tragic romance, even giving it the subtitle A Love Story, but the emotional weight doesn't fully land. The core idea is Dracula's obsession with his lost wife Elizabeth, and his rediscovery of her likeness centuries later in Paris. That setting at least makes sense. A vampire drifting through 19th century Paris feels right at home. Through Jonathan Harker, Dracula meets Mina, who mirrors Elizabeth's purity. Meanwhile, Maria, a far more sensual character, provides a stark contrast, with one particularly bloody scene standing out more for its shock value than anything else. Christoph Waltz shows up in what feels like another curious career move, playing a priest who essentially fills the Van Helsing role. Ironically, in a film this chaotic, he's the most grounded presence. He keeps things measured while everything around him leans into excess. In the end, Besson aims for sweeping romance but never quite earns it. What carries the film instead is sheer commitment, both from him and from Jones. It doesn't always work, but at least it never feels half-hearted.